Good evening and welcome on the occasion of this third launch of the year for Arianespace and Ariane 5. Tonight we're going to inject into orbit two long-standing customers of Arianespace. We have the ST-2 satellite, and ST-2 will be taking over from ST-1 that we launched over 10 years ago. And then GSAT-8, an Indian satellite. And as you know, this year we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the first launch of an Indian satellite by Ariane. That was back in 1981. Since then, we've launched many Indian satellites, and we intend to continue doing so going forward. So the start of the year has been very busy for Arianespace, as today we're on the 20th of May, and last year at the same time we were still waiting to launch with Ariane 5. But this year we're on to our third launch, and we will keep up the pace, as by the end of the year we're anticipating another 3 launches of Ariane 5. So you will be watching on another 3 occasions launches such as this one there, ready for liftoff on its launch pad. And we're also looking forward to the first Soyuz launch, as 2 launches of Soyuz are anticipated this year from Guyana, from this brilliant facilities which we were delivered a few days ago by the ESA. This launch facility has been built here by ESA, the CNES and our Russian partners. And then towards the end of this year we'll have the first flight of Vega. But without further ado, let's watch this new launch of Ariane 5, ECA, ST-2, GSAT-8.
ST-2, GSAT-8.
Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome once again to Kourou, the home of the Ariane family, for tonight's live broadcast of Arianespace flight number 202. Joshua Jampel here. It's the third launch of the year, as Jean-Yves Le Gall mentioned, but it's also the 58th Ariane 5 to be launched since the program began, and the 202nd Ariane in all. A double launch, passengers for Asia and India tonight, some old friends, and we're about 7 minutes and some seconds down to liftoff. And you're going to be hearing from this man in just a moment, the Range Operations Manager, calling out the entry into the final sequences.
Top H0-7 minutes.
The DDO has just called out our beginning the 7-minute mark. That's a milestone. These are the final moments of the final countdowns called the synchronized sequence. Computers are taking over. We like to set the scene by introducing some of the major players making the mission possible tonight. In the Arianespace Flight Directorate, you saw Jean-Yves Le Gall, Patrick Loire, who's head of Arianespace in Kourou, and Edward Perez, who's the top technical person on the Ariane team. These gentlemen on the phones with their teams in Kourou and around the world. We're in the Jupiter building. You can see the technical people. Behind them are the invited guests tonight. Some other dramatis personae tonight, the 2 Terrys, Terry Wilmart of Arianespace, Mission Director, sitting alongside Terry Vallée, the Range Operations Manager, also called the DDO. It's his voice that you hear calling out the milestones for the rest of the mission. The Arianespace Mission Director, a daily coordinator with the satellites and their campaigns. On the left, the green status panels. This is a summary of the different launch services provided by the base. It's a go, no-go, red-green resume sent in here by all the offices across the broad base here. And it comes into Jupiter, all this information, which is why we call Jupiter the nerve center of the space base. You can see logistics and safety and weather. I'm reading down from the French here. Telemetry, and of course the launcher and the 2 satellites. Another place that's very active at this hour is up by the Launch Management Center. It's about 12 or 13 kilometers closer to the pad to the northeast from where we are here in Jupiter. And these are 3 teams that are coordinating the launcher campaign and the countdown under the direction of the gentleman you just saw called the Co-L. He's the Launch Operations Manager. Some of the teams are guaranteeing the flight readiness, signing off on the OK to fly. They have earlier signed off on the OK to transfer the fully equipped Ariane from the final assembly building out to the launch base. That happened yesterday. There's also a quality team independent from those. There's 150, 200 people up there working now, and we need all these people because, as you can imagine, Ariane 5 is a complex machine. A million things have to function perfectly, and of course Arianespace will only give the green light if they are functioning perfectly. The Arianespace point person here for one of the satellites for ST-2, Jerome Reeves, he follows all the activities from contract to satellite separation. With him is the satellite program director for ST2, the DMS they call it, a technical person responsible for the technology, deciding on if their satellite is ready for launch following the campaign and its preparation as the satellite manager. We're going to take a look under the fairing now at those two satellites. You see the logos, the traditional logos of the satellite builders and operators on the outside. Inside the fairing on the top is ST2, the heavier satellite, 5 tons. The heavier satellite is often separated first, but not always. Tonight it is the case. Underneath that there is a black bell-shaped structure which we'll be looking at a little later more closely. This is called the Silda. This is a carrying structure which allows us to take the second passenger. And underneath that Silda structure is our second passenger, the lighter, 3 tons, GSAT. Satellites are placed in this position in the final assembly building, one of the main facilities here. When they're kept at 20 degrees by an air conditioning system, and on board they're kept cool at 14 degrees system. Our second customer, Christophe Bardou, saluting the camera there, Arianespace man, the program director, with Dr. Alex of ISRO. Program director basically on the day-to-day basis, meeting with his customers, reviewing the status of their satellites. If you're not familiar with the launcher, a thumbnail sketch, she stands about 50 meters tall. She is in 2 halves. They call them composites here. There's a lower and an upper. The lower composite consisting of the main stage and the 2 boosters on either side. You can see that they both stand 30 to 31 meters tall. And then the upper stage, the upper composite, consisting of the upper stage and the vehicle equipment bay where the computers are, the launcher's brains and the navigation systems and the guidance systems. And at the very top, the fairing, which you can see there with the logos. And inside the fairing are the 2 satellites. 2 minutes until launch now. We're going to zoom in on the upper stage. You see the yellow bars going across the center there. We're going to get a close-up of those in just a minute. These are the cryogenic feeder arms, the propellant feeder arms going into the upper stage. There's a split-screen image of it. Liquid hydrogen on the left, liquid oxygen on the right. That's the cryogenic fuel, the mix of those. Why do we do this? The upper stage needs to be refilled up until the very last minute, because the cold propellant which we're using, and by cold I mean liquid oxygen minus 160 degrees, liquid hydrogen minus 240 degrees, that's cold, that in this heat, you can imagine, needs constant topping up. Those of you here tonight in French Guiana, or if you have been here, you know how hot it can be here, constantly evaporates in this heat, so we top up right until 5 seconds before liftoff. You can see on the back of the screen the invited guests going to go out on the terraces on either side here and watch the liftoff. The DDO again will call out the 1-minute mark, and we'll be into the
H0-1 minute.
And we're into the final 60 seconds before liftoff. Ariane getting ready. Now here's what to watch for with the ignition sequence. You'll hear the DDO call out the 10, 9, 8, 10, 9, 8, and when he gets to 5, which is sank, watch those yellow bars at the center there. They have to pull back. Those cryogenic arms will swing back, and that gets the whole thing started. At 0, the DDO will call out allumage, in French means ignition, and the main engine will light, but we don't lift off yet. Count to 7. For 7 full seconds, the computers are checking out the performance in the main engine while it's still burning on the pad. If all is well, then and only then, the computers give the order to light the 2 boosters, which is the point of no return. And we will be off. So watch for all that. Enjoy the liftoff. We'll be back shortly afterward.
Attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain, décollage.
Well, much better visibility than we dared hope for just maybe even an hour ago. It's been raining and overcast most of the day, but some fine shots at liftoff of Ariane roaring off the pad into the gray, trailing the gold plumes as she makes her way up into the sky over French Guiana. She took off right on time at 17:38 local time. These fine shots are always very impressive. 775 tons at liftoff as Ariane leaves the ground. Most of that is fuel, as you will see. She'll start to shed that. The DDO is saying that everything is fine on board. Right now, she's burning 5 tons of fuel per second, 2.5 tons in each booster burning. That represents the major part of the boost. It's 90% of the acceleration and the power at liftoff. The core stage burning another 300 kilos per second. Roughly add up that altogether, it's roughly the equivalent to a dozen Airbuses. Ariane following now the program in the onboard computer, which has been installed, giving all the orders, including stage separations, which we'll begin to see just very shortly. We're in the first of 4 flight phases. The first 3 are powered, the last is not. We'll describe each in turn, so you can follow Ariane as she heads across the Atlantic, where she'll separate the 2 passengers over Africa. Right now, the first phase, the single core stage engine, it's called Vulcan, and the 2 boosters are burning. The boosters will burn for just over 2 minutes each, and in a few seconds you should hear the DDO call out their separation, and that comes right on time at about 68 kilometers up. This is what it looks like. There's another booster out of camera range, but the 2 of them separated, delivering, they've done their job. They fall 500 kilometers away from shore in a protected area. French Guiana chosen partially for its large opening on the water, low risk for the nearby population. We're in the second flight phase now, the boosters having done their job. The core engine burning alone. It'll burn for about 9 minutes. The fairing separation is coming up next, and the DDO will be calling out that one. And there it is, at 107 roughly kilometers. The fairing is in 2 halves. The other half is out of camera range on the other side. Blown away is the term because they're separated by 2 pyrotechnic cords. One is horizontal and one is vertical. The fairing is dropped now because it's done its job. What it does is protect the passengers from the vibrations and friction in the Earth's atmosphere. And above 100 kilometers, we don't need it anymore, so we can get rid of the dead weight. It's a ton or 2. On the bottom left of your screen, the bottom 2 lines, you see kilometers. That's our altitude, 132. And the speed below that, kilometers per second. We're approaching 2.5 kilometers per second. The speed we need to inject satellites, roughly 9 kilometers per second, so keep your eyes on that. Back with more of the mission. Don't go away, but for right now, the latest news from Arianespace. On April 22nd, Ariane successfully lifted 2 new satellites into orbit, GSAT-1A for the United Arab Emirates and Intelsat New Dawn for Africa. It was a record for total mass at liftoff for the European launcher, 10 tons.
The new Vega launcher underwent combined tests, both electrical and mechanical, at the space base last month. A full-size mock-up of the vehicle, without the fluids, was erected on its new launch pad. Tests of the fluids of the 4th stage are set for June.
On April 27th, Arianespace signed to launch ABS-2 for Asia Broadcast Satellite. Weighing over 6 tons, ABS-2 will be lifted in 2013. At the European Union-Japan Business Roundtable in Rome last month, Jean-Yves Le Gall spoke to 50 decision-makers on the importance of reducing barriers to European and Japanese exchange. The beginning of May saw the dry run activities for Soyuz. The launcher rolled out to its new pad and 2 different countdowns were simulated. These activities tested and validated all the procedures necessary for its upcoming maiden launch from French Guiana. The Russian and European launch teams are now ready for the first Soyuz launch campaign, which will carry the first 2 satellites of the Galileo constellation for the European Space Agency.
In a symbolic gesture on May 7th, Jean-Jacques Dordain, ISRO's Director General, handed the keys to the Soyuz launch facilities to Jean-Yves Le Gall. Present were CNES President Yannick Descata and Vladimir Popovkin, Directors of Roscosmos.
Jean-Yves Le Gall and Antonio Fabrizi, ESA's Director of Launchers, recently signed 2 contracts for the maintenance of Ariane 5, strengthening ties between ESA and Arianespace and reaffirming member states' contributions. A very, very busy period here at the space base, as you saw, which began a month ago in mid-April with the Vega testing and then the Flight 201 launch, and then on April 22nd, then the Soyuz dry run, and then capping that very busy period by tonight's launch, all happening at the CSG here, the world's only dedicated commercial space base, and Arianespace running the launcher family. With Soyuz coming up now, here's a word from the new head of Roscosmos. 5 years in the making, the new launch site for Soyuz is now a reality. Here, the first Soyuz vehicle will lift off from French Guiana in the final quarter of this year. Bringing the famous Russian launcher to Europe's spaceport is a logical continuation of a collaboration that goes back a long way.
So, more generally speaking, we can say that this is a fine example of cooperation between Russia and France. Many European countries have been involved in this project as well. This is quite a significant project.
More Russian personnel have been arriving over the past few weeks. These launch teams have come from Baikonur to carry out the necessary final qualifications of the facilities.
At the end of the project, I think that relations between Russia, Cosmos, CNES, the European space agencies will have kicked into high gear, but we are in the launch process and not there yet. Therefore, we must prove that we're able to build a launch pad for Soyuz in French Guiana, but also that we're also able to do business in a field as complex as that of space technology.
The historic Soyuz has 1,770 launches to its credit, spanning over 50 years. But it has an even brighter future here in French Guiana as a key member of the Ariane family.
Today is a very important day for Arianespace because we are going to start the exploitation of the Soyuz in French Guiana launch system. And this will give us a very competitive advantage because we will have the capability to launch all the satellites of all our customers. Today, Ariane 5 is a king of this market, but Ariane 5 is devoted to the launch of big satellites, and with Soyuz we will be able to launch all the medium-sized satellites on every orbit, and this will give us a very competitive advantage, allowing us to stay the leader in this market for many years.
During that film, we were picked up by our first downrange tracking station over the border in Brazil at a place called Natal. All of Ariane's trajectory, of course, has been designed to be followed from the ground. The launcher is sending back radar and telemetry to a network of stations. There are 5 of them downrange, which, of course, keep constant watch on the health of Ariane's vital systems. The antennas pick up the signal and follow her progress. The DDO has called it extinction of the upper stage. Now, this is the end, marking the end of the first half. You see what happens there? The first stage extinguished and separated from the mothership, and then the upper stage engine is ignited. These 3 orders happening right on time at about 186 kilometers up, as you can read on the lower left. And these 3 orders are given by the onboard computer, all in a period of about 12 or 13 seconds. We're in the 3rd flight phase. Upper stage will burn for about 15 or 16 minutes. We're into the second half of the mission. We can start focusing on the satellites now, and to get us started, a film on India and its collaboration with Arianespace. Arianespace and India have worked together since the early 1980s. Satellites built by the Indian Space Research Organization have flown on all versions of the European launcher, from Ariane 1 to today's Ariane 5.
Thereafter, Arianespace launched satellites in the INSAT-1, SAT-2, SAT-3, and INSAT-4 families. GSAT-8 is therefore the 14th satellite launched by Ariane on behalf of ISRO. To this must be added 2 satellites manufactured by ISRO on behalf of private operators. Needless to say, Arianespace and our friends have been having relations for a long time and are fully aware of our needs of one another. which greatly facilitates mission preparation. What's more, personal ties between members of the team have been forged over the years. As the person in charge of Indian launches for many years, I know that ISRO is appreciative of Arianespace's transparency and responsiveness.
ISRO satellites have evolved over the years. The first, launched by Ariane's third flight in 1981, weighed 670 kilograms. GSAT-8 weighs over 3 tons.
GSAT-8 is the most powerful satellite built by ISRO so far. It contains 24 high-power Ku-band transponders and a 2-channel navigation payload. The communication part of it is used for DTH applications, data collection and the news gathering over the entire Indian territory. Yeah, this weather and the surrounding looks like a typical South Indian atmosphere. It is, if you remember, one of our center, VSSC, Trivandrum, place is exactly like this. We feel to be at home here in Guyana. And our friendship has lasted more than 30 years with the launch of Apple spacecraft on LO3 during 1981. And the facilities here are excellent, and we know all the facilities as much as Canis knows. So we can effectively utilize the facilities. We are well prepared to utilize all the facilities here to the best extent.
And GSAT-10 will be launched by Ariane at the end of next year. A nice testimonial there from Mr. Venkata Rao. We'll have another interview with him coming up later on. 12 minutes left, roughly, in the upper stage burn, the second stage carrying 12 tons of liquid oxygen and just over 2.5 tons of liquid hydrogen, compared to the first stage, which carried over 170 tons of fuel. It'll push Ariane across the Atlantic. A film on ISRO now. You can find out all about the builders of GSAT.
Indian space effort has been specifically tailored towards enhancing the quality of life of the common man. India has made remarkable progress in developing the state-of-the-art space technology and its applications, which has become an important element of the national infrastructure. The space-enabled application programs of ISRO have played a vital role in benefiting the society and have brought in the societal transformation.
The Indian National Satellite System is one of the largest constellations of communication satellites in the Asia-Pacific region.
Gaining from the experimental satellites and applications of the 70s, the INSAT system evolved in the year 1983, with INSAT 1B in the orbit. Over the last 3 decades, we had 18 communication satellites, including the 8 satellites that are in operational service currently.
Today, India has capabilities in satellite communication that are comparable to the best in the world, providing a variety of services for telecommunications, broadcasting, DTH applications, weather monitoring, disaster warning, and data exchange for enabling economic activities. But our uniqueness lies in the applications of these satellites for societal programs like teleeducation, telemedicine, and village resource center that serve the common man.
GSAT-8 satellite that we are launching today would augment our communication capacity in Ku band with its 24 high-power transponders with footprint over the entire Indian landmass, including Andaman and Car Nicobar Islands. GSAT-8 carries a Gagan payload, also meant for satellite-based augmentation of GPS signals over India, for use by the Airports Authority of India. The entire design, development, realization, integration, simulation, and testing of GSAT-8 is a testimony to India's technological maturity in this area. Ku-band payload makes use of polarization-sensitive dual-gridded shaped reflectors, DGR, which is an indigenous effort. The development and testing of payload for GSAT-8 was carried out at Space Application Center of ISRO, and final integration of the payload with the satellite bus, along with the satellite level testing, was performed at ISRO Satellite Center. ISRO's satellite launch vehicles are capable to launch 1-ton and 2-ton category satellites from Satish Dhawan Space Center, Shahar, the spaceport of India. The new multi-purpose satellite, GSAT-8, is weighing more than 3 tons. This is one of the largest and heaviest satellites which ISRO has developed till date. The GSAT-8 satellite was airlifted from Bangalore to French Guiana, Kourou, for its launch on board Ariane 5. At French Guiana Spaceport, GSAT-8 successfully underwent the spacecraft-level checkout operations before its final integration to the launch vehicle. The upcoming GSAT-8 launch will continue India's long-term relationship with launch services provided by the Ariane.
GSAT-8 is scheduled to be launched on board Ariane 5 launcher in its VA202 flight.
Ariane's signal has just been picked up by Ascension Island. That's our next downrange tracking station, tiny island in the South Atlantic. 7 minutes, roughly, to go in the upper stage burn. All is normal on board, says the DDO. Film on Melco coming up now, builders of ST-2.
Since the successful launch of the first satellite of the Electronic Systems Group Mitsubishi Electric in 1976, we have been participating in various government projects through manufacturing communication satellites, observation satellites, and engineering test satellites, and have grown to become a leading manufacturer of space systems. We manufactured Superbird C2, Japan's first commercial communication satellite, successfully launched in August 2008 and delivered to the customer in October 2008.
We are in the process of strengthening our position in the global satellite market. And today, we are happy to announce that the ST-2 has finally come to the starting line of its dedication to services for people among many countries.
We at the Electronic Systems Group of Mitsubishi Electric, with our most advanced technology, are doing all that we can to realize a safe society with a rich future for every individual.
Ariane performing flawlessly. Our speed now on the bottom there coming close to 8.5 kilometers per second, and our altitude 224 kilometers. We were picked up by our next downrange tracking station in Libreville in Gabon. Right now coming up, a film from Chunghwa, one of the ST-2 partners. Take a look.
Chunghwa Telecom is the leading integrated telecom service provider in Taiwan in terms of subscribers and revenues. The company's extensive experience, organizational structure, and scale have allowed it to form major business partnerships with international telecom operators. Chunghwa Telecom endeavors to provide all-round information and communication service. We continue to receive favorable evaluations from professional observers. Chunghwa Telecom's main services include mobile communications with a tight-knit network, allowing customers more mobile lives. Data communications, bringing the world to customers and adding value to life. Fixed network communications, making life better on a foundation of stability. Enterprise services, providing optimal solutions, meeting every need. In order to satisfy the needs of the domestic market and develop potential overseas markets, we have again teamed up with Singapore Telecommunications to jointly invest in development of the ST-2 satellite. The superior features of the ST-2 satellite will enable us to continue to provide superior voice, data, and video service. We plan to provide broadband internet access and HD high-resolution multimedia service throughout Asia, while also relying on large bandwidth international submarine cable networks to cement our status as a communications hub in the East Asia region. Chunghwa Telecom is vigorously integrating information and communications technology, including our cloud system framework, software development platforms, and application services. We will use ubiquitous communications to help companies develop new opportunities and let consumers enjoy a brighter future. Chunghwa Telecom will always outdo itself in an effort to provide even better service.
3 minutes remaining in the upper stage burn. Everything going according to plan. ST-2 arrived in Kourou on April 5th. There's an interesting note on the platform. This is only the second time this type of platform, called the DS-2000, has been launched by Ariane. The first time was on the Superbird 7. For a GSAT, Sky Perfect GSAT people. That was in August of 2007 on Flight 185, if you recall. ST-2 and Superbird 7 are the only two times this platform has been commercialized outside Japan and launched by a non-Japanese launch vehicle. Our next film now on SingTel, the second ST-2 partner.
We're committed to driving customers' success in this evolving landscape by delivering innovative and cost-effective solutions. ST2 and our industry-leading satellite services will transform industries and change lifestyles. We are bringing financial services through credit card and ATMs in remote locations. In the oil and gas sectors, we're bringing new capabilities to people working on oil rigs and platforms. In the area around changing consumer lifestyles, we're bringing media and content to millions of households throughout Asia with ST2 and our satellite capabilities.
Satellite services play an important role in SingTel's overall vision for the corporate business market. They enable us to shape and lead key markets such as the maritime, broadcast, and logistics industries. SingTel is the only homegrown company in Singapore to own commercial satellites, and we're very excited about the launch of ST2, our second satellite. ST2 is an important part of SingTel's vision to transform the way our customers live and work.
We have now been picked up by our final tracking station in Kenya at a place called Malindi, which will see the satellite separations. All is going perfectly on schedule. We're awaiting now the extinction of the upper stage, due to come about 24:51 roughly. You should be hearing the DDO call out that extinction, cutoff command of the upper stage, and then we'll be out of the powered flight phases.
Extinction du moteur HM7B sur commande de guidage.
And there it is, right on time, coming at about 9,800 kilometers up, roughly. Again, the order given on the onboard computer. You saw the nozzle shutting down there. We're in the fourth flight phase. Before we explain the fourth flight phase, a film on Arianespace and its collaboration with ST2. Arianespace's offices in Tokyo and Singapore give it a strong presence in Southeast Asia, even in tough economic times.
Arianespace has always got privileged relationships with Southeast Asia satellite operators. One reason may be the similarity of this region with Europe, as it consists of many independent countries. Today, Southeast Asia has a strong need for satellite connectivity, and the demand has grown by about 6% in 2010 despite the economic downturn. It is still predicted to grow in the near and medium terms.
ST-2 is a joint project between Singapore and Taiwan. 5 tons of telecom technology will let the satellite renew services originally offered by ST-1.
ST-2 is a replacement and expansion spacecraft for both Chunghwa and SingTel. As a result of that, we were looking for a launch vehicle that had a very high reliability of being able to get the spacecraft in orbit when we needed it. And from that background, the Ariane 5 is possibly the most reliable launch vehicle on the market today, and that was the prime driver for the selection of Arianespace for providing the launch service for ST-2.
In the future, SingTel will collaborate with Asia Broadcast Satellite and Korea Telecom on satellites ST-3, ABS-2, and GSAT-8, all Arianespace customers. I think I gave you the wrong figure for the kilometer when we had the extinction of the upper stage. It's 900 kilometers roughly, not 9,800 kilometers, obviously. Separation of ST-2 coming up in just a few short seconds. We should be hearing from the DDO. Always a very emotional moment as all eyes are on the computers and the ears and the headphones, telephones awaiting news. Satellite separation. This will be the second satellite for our friends at ST.
Séparation du satellite ST2.
There we are. First good news of this evening. Smiles in the directorate there. You see how it happened. She's pushed away from the mothership by a series of springs. And some early congratulations. You see that very politely here. The people in the hall have refrained from applauding. They'll be applauding after separation of the second satellite. A word on ST-2's post-separation activities from Mark Blair again.
ST-2 will separate from the launch vehicle 27 minutes after launch. At 39 minutes after launch, we will receive our first signal from the spacecraft from the Nangara site in Western Australia. 1.5 hours after launch, we deploy the solar arrays, and then on the 2nd, 4th and 5th days after launch, we'll be firing the aperture kick engine to transfer us from our geostationary transfer orbit into geosynchronous orbit. The payload testing will commence 12 days after launch, with completion of in-orbit testing on the 24th of June. Service is expected to commence on ST-2. Commercial service will commence on ST-2 in July.
We mentioned that the upper stage, which you can see there, has a propulsion role to push Ariane across the Atlantic. It has a second role, which has to do with ballistics, which is what's going on now. Its second job is beginning. Their first satellite was separated in one direction, and the Silda, which is the black bell-shaped structure that you saw earlier, holding the second satellite, has to be separated in a second direction, and the third satellite, GSAT, has to be pushed off in yet a third direction. So what happens now?
Du système de lancement double Ariane.
What happens is a series of balletic-like maneuvers. Here's the Silda being pushed off in another direction from ST-2, revealing GSAT. The Silda is this carrying structure that we've used for over 100 times. We have 6 versions of it. We're using the largest version, about 6.5 meters tall tonight. Lets us carry the second passenger. The separation of the Silda came right on time at about 1,330 kilometers. On the outside of the launcher are a series of thrusters, and you might see them popping on and off. It's not propulsion, it's just moving in the pitch and the roll maneuvers to move the satellite. Our final film on post-separation activities for GSAT.
After separation, Master Control Center at Ascent, South India will take the responsibility of the operational and issuing the commands. By the help of the network spread over the entire globe, it will deploy the solar array and the communication payload antenna. Afterwards, payload and housekeeping systems will be checked thoroughly, and by the middle of June 2011, spacecraft will be put into service.
We are in the middle of the ballistics phase. There are 18 phases, actually. The separation of ST-2, the separation of the Silda, those we've had. And the next coming up is the separation of GSAT. Now, these short maneuvers of the nozzle firings range from about 5 seconds to over 3 minutes. Positioning again the GSAT at the moment away from the other satellites. GSAT is the 14th satellite launched for ISRO by Ariane, I think has been mentioned, the 16th satellite that ISRO has built. The first satellite that Ariane launched for the Indian Space Research Organization goes back to Ariane's third flight on an Ariane 1. And it weighed a smallish 670 kilos compared with the 3 tons tonight. You can see how the program has evolved. And there is the second bit of good news. Successful separation of GSAT-8 and the hall breaking into applause. You can see how that happens there. Pushed away, the same system, from the vehicle equipment bay and what remains of the 775 tons that we had at liftoff. Separation of GSAT-8 coming at about 1,800 kilometers up. Smiles all around, as you can see. The champagne is on ice and the cigars are being made ready. We'll have our post-launch speeches coming up. But before that, now that GSAT-8 is up, it too will have 3 apogee firings, and then solar array reflector deployment coming up in about 3.5 days, and then 3-axis stabilization in 4 days, and station acquisition in about 1 week. That's for GSAT. We're waiting for the speeches now. We'll be hearing, of course, from Jean-Yves Le Gall and representatives from both customers. We, before that, probably will have time to go to a replay of the launch, which you witnessed live 30 minutes ago. But Ariane 5 once again delivering, capping, as we said, a very busy period here. Successful launch of Flight 202, 9 tons of space hardware. We sent up 10 tons in the last flight on April 22nd. Flight number 201. I think we're ready for our replay, launch replay in just a minute. We have several launch sites, cameras at several sites across the base, and they send us in their replay. Here we go. Nice shot of Ariane taking off. I think that was from our closest observation site. I see Jean-Yves Le Gall making his way to the podium to begin the speeches. His will be the next voice you will hear. Mr. Le Gall.
As you just witnessed, this 58th Ariane 5 launch is lifted and placed into GSO. The satellites ST-2 and GSAT-8, which makes me, of course, very happy. First, because this is our 44th consecutive successful launch, which is all the more remarkable. Second, because this launch takes place less than 1 month after the previous one, which, of course, demonstrates the expertise of our operational team, who launch after launch has proved it is, of course, the best in the world. Last, because we just lofted into orbit 2 satellites for India and Asia and are particularly happy to support the development of one of the most vibrant regions of the world. And it is not since the start of the year we're the only one having put into orbit 4 satellites for telcos. I understand that one of our competitors took off before we did, but the mission is lasting 9 hours, and ours is half an hour. Well, also, we are ahead of the pack. Let me first warmly thank our clients who traveled to Guyana to attend this launch, in Guyana. ST2, I'm very happy to congratulate Satellite Ventures Ltd. Arianespace is proud to again deliver its services to SingTel and Chunghwa Telecom, with whom we've had a special relationship since the launch of ST-1 back in 1998. This illustrates to perfection the recognized quality and competitiveness of our service offering and launch solutions. Let me then recognize and congratulate my friends, Mr. Young and Mrs. Wang, who have honored us with their presence tonight. Thank you. Let me also salute Mr. Saito, whose team built the satellite at Melco, which will also launch other Melco satellites. GSAT-8, ISRO is one of the most loyal Arianespace clients, and I wish to congratulate my friend, Dr. Ra Krishnan, who has honored us with his presence tonight. Indeed, this new success comes at the right time for the celebration of the 30th anniversary of our cooperation. Let me congratulate again the ISRO teams who again have demonstrated their unmatched expertise with the satellite, which is the 14th we're launching on behalf of India, and this will continue as we launch GSAT-10 next year, as you know. Tonight, many people have been sharing in this new success of Ariane 5, and I wish to thank them for having followed this event. All of you from Singapore, Taipei, it's quite early in Singapore, as you know. Welcome, Singapore. You had to rise very early in the morning to follow us. Let me salute SingTel CEO in Singapore and many others down there in Singapore, Taipei, Tokyo, Bangalore, and New Delhi, and other regions of the world. Great launch. Successes will continue as this one. Since of this launch, 3 other Ariane 5 launches are planned in 2011, to which we'll add those of Soyuz and Vega. Let me pay tribute to those who contributed to this success. The member states of ESA and its executive, the CNES teams in France and Guyana, all our industrial partners across Europe, and of course, Arianespace operational team, obviously. Now, 3rd launch of the year, we're on May 20th, and 2011 has started right last year at the same time. We had no launch of the first, was done on the 21st of this year. We are in mid-year, which is a good omen for the operations. Now, I could continue on and on. I'm very happy, but now let me give the floor to our clients, Mr. Young and Ms. Lang, and then Dr. Ra Krishnan for GSAT-8. Thank you.
Good evening, esteemed colleagues of the satellite industry, ladies and gentlemen, and hello, Singapore. It is a great honor for me to stand here representing SingTel, and more importantly, Singapore, on this monumental day to witness the successful launch of ST-2. This success belongs to the team of SingTel and Optus colleagues who have worked extremely hard over the last 3.5 years from the inception of the program till launch today. We have overcome many challenges to come to this point. As we see and hear ST-2 roar into life in outer space, we know it has been well worth the journey. I congratulate all of you for a job well done. But let us not forget, this ST-2 program is only made possible because we have received great support from many people along the way. The first and foremost is our customers. Thank you for your business and encouragement. It gave us the courage and motivation to dream big and make amazing things like ST-2 happen. We will continue to work hard for you to make our joint business dream come true together. Secondly, I'd like to thank our ST-2 JV partner, Chunghwa Telecom, for your friendship, your trust, and cooperation along the journey. I strongly believe that ST-2 shall further strengthen the strong partnership we have established and maintained so well in ST1. Together, we shall make ST2 another success story that our future generation shall be proud of. 在此，我要感谢我们中华电信的同事和朋友，谢谢你们的支持。We are also very grateful for the wonderful support we have received from Singapore government agency IDA. In Singapore, it is not a usual everyday event to launch a satellite. Therefore, we are especially thankful for the understanding and guidance of the IDA team in crossing many unfamiliar hurdles to get to where we are. From this point onwards, I sincerely believe that SingTel is in a great position to contribute back to this partnership with IDA in helping Singapore become the undisputed Asia ICT hub through our new satellite ST2 and SingTel extensive regional infrastructure capabilities. And finally, I'd like to thank and say a big thank you to our technology partner, Melco and Arianespace. The dedication and professionalism by which your team have executed this ST2 program every step of the way was very impressive. We are happy to have been associated with two of the best in the industry. I salute all of your members on this ST2 program for an awesome job accomplished today. Thank you so much. And congratulations to also our co-passenger GSAT-8 ISRO. It's been a pleasure flying with you. Now, it leaves me with great pleasure to tell all our Singaporean folks watching from Seletar Command Center, or Mio TV, or the website, especially our children, that amazing things do happen when we dream big. We have proven it today, so therefore, fear not to dream, and may your dream come true very soon. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lagale and the Arianespace team, Mr. Sado and the Melcom team, Mr. Young and the SingTel and Optus team, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is T.F. Lim, the president of Chunghwa Telecom International Business Group. What a wonderful day today. We make it. My happiness about this successful launch is beyond all expression. On behalf of Chunghwa Telecom, I would like to thank Arianespace for your outstanding jobs to make this liftoff very successful. And I would like to thank Melco for your continuous effort to complete the manufacturing of ST2 in the past 2.5 years. And the satellite was actually built and completed, ahead of the schedule. To our co-passenger, ISRO GSAT-8, I wish you a very successful operation of this new flying bird. And my special thanks goes to SingTel and Optus for your hard work and dedication to carry out the project. The ST2 project showcases both SingTel and Chunghwa Telecom determinations to maintain the leadership in the telecom industry in Asia-Pacific region. And this successful launch marked a step forwards towards this goal. Take this opportunity. Please allow me to introduce our delegation. Mr. Gao Jingzhi, the Managing Director of Network Department. Mr. Zhang Qinzhong, the Managing Director of Satellite Department. Mr. Jeff Huang, the Director of Satellite Department. Mr. Benjamin Liu, the General Manager of Chunghwa Telecom Singapore. And I also like to introduce our media delegates from Taiwan. Ms. Lin Shuhui, the Commercial Times. Ms. Huang Jinling, the Economical Daily News. Ms. Jiang Minyan from Central News Agency. Last, I think I need to thank the Mother Nature as well for giving us a fair weather condition this afternoon. Thus, we don't have to ground it here to keep waiting. So again, thank you everyone. Merci beaucoup. So have you a safe trip back home. Thank you very, very much.
Distinguished colleagues, the Indian Space Research Organization is delighted on the successful launch of its communication satellite GSAT-8 by Ariane 5 in its 58th flight this evening. We congratulate Arianespace and its partners on this successful mission. I'm extremely happy to announce that ISRO's master control facility at Hassan near Bangalore has confirmed the reception of signals from GSAT-8 and taken charge of the command and control of GSAT-8 immediately after its injection into the geostationary transfer orbit. GSAT-8 is one of the heaviest and high-power satellites that ISRO has ever built. This is another great moment for us and also an apt state to accolade the diligence exhibited by the GSAT-8 project team. Of course, for the satellite, the next phase of the voyage would be more crucial. The user community in India are looking forward towards the operationalization of the 24 high-powered Ku-band transponders into the Indian national satellite system. It's also the embarking of space-based augmentation of GPS navigation system in India, which will be continued with our forthcoming satellites. We congratulate Chunghwa Telecom and SingTel, who developed the ST-2 satellites, which is the co-passenger along with our GSAT-8. We express our sincere thanks for the support provided by European Space Agency, the French National Space Agency, Arianespace, and the Guyana Space Center for an efficient pre-launch operation on GSAT-8 at this spaceport during the last 50 days. Thank you very much. Thank you for the support. And let me compliment the entire ISRO team, and let me thank all my friends, colleagues from India who have supported us for this great mission. And for us, this is a new phase in our communication application system for the country. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Once again, thank you for a job well done, well done. Next event will take place in early July here at the CSG with the launch of Ariane 5 of satellites Astra 1N and BSAT-3C-DSAT-11OR, and a few days later at Baikonur with the launch by Soyuz of 6 Globalstar 2 satellites. Well, have a great evening, and, well, see you later. Thank you, and have a great... Oh, and good morning, Singapore.
Well, Jean-Yves Le Gall promising more launches this year of Ariane, Soyuz, and Vega. And it's nice that the customers congratulating each other, congratulating Mr. Young, congratulating his co-passenger GSAT, and Dr. Radhakrishnan doing the same, also announcing that the signal for GSAT had been picked up, opening a new phase in communications for India. Another replay And we will say goodbye, because that'll do it for us from Kourou, where once again the big news is Ariane 5 has delivered 2 new satellites beginning life, 29 straight for this version of the Ariane 5 ECA. The next launch early July. Don't forget the ATV-3 arrives in Kourou in August for its launch early next year. Congratulations to all of you in Asia and India, where we wish you a very good morning. And to everyone, Joshua Jampel here for the teams at the Space Base, saying thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and we look forward to being with you next time. Good night, everyone.